Hello, everybody, and welcome to this most esteemed edition of our Dynamite Review Modcast. I am joined today by my lovely, well, I wouldn't exactly go that far. My friend, no, my co-host, Dory. Please introduce yourself to the Modcast faithful, as you do every week.
Hello, everybody. It's Dory. Go by she, her. I'm really excited to talk about all of the leading actors involved in AEW this week. Not a lot of wrestling, unfortunately, but a lot of acting. So I'll be fun.
For context, she hyped up this joke before we started recording, and I was like, "Oh yeah, go ahead." And I didn't expect it. I forgot about it. So thank you.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, oh, wait, but what did we start with on Dynamite? But I didn't want to throw off your groove, so I didn't want to. But yeah, yeah, I'm excited to talk about this Dynamite. It was a really great show. I am electric about a couple of things, so we will. I got my fantasy booking shoes on. I actually have my regular shoes on, but I have my fantasy booking shoes on, and I'll be talking about a couple of my theories. Not a game theory, but a wrestling theory. And
I
yeah, this was a great show. I'm really excited to talk about it, especially what we started off with.
Absolutely. By all means, feel free to go on the wildest tangents possible. I'm a little bit bunged up, so anytime you want to go on like 10-minute like fucking wild theories,
This is
please feel
like
free.
this is like a kid on Christmas. You've just given me the ultimate like reins off. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't use that word. The ultimate.
Boo.
That was actually unintentional, if you can believe it, which I know you won't. Which you're right to. But yeah,
If it
yeah,
helps, I
definitely.
have my middle ones in the air right now.
Yes, yeah, fair enough. But yeah, I am at the go for at least two segments to just go wild with my fantasy booking. But yeah, they also announced the Owen bracket,
Not.
so we'll talk about that too.
Yes, absolutely. But first, we should probably start at the beginning because,
Probably.
we debated, or what should we start with? The beginning is the best place to start, especially when the beginning is as hype and as hot as it was this episode of Dynamite. Because we start off, well, okay, first of all, we start off with the sad announcement. We should probably talk about this. That unfortunately, they covered for this by saying that Jay White was attacked by the Death Riders backstage, and that's why he has been taken out of the Owen. We now know that that is in fact because he broke his hand, I believe, in the Kevin Knight match on Collision the other day.
Yeah,
So sad news because this man is just cursed, isn't he? Like
it really
it's
seems
so
like it.
it's so unfortunate. That's like both key members of Bullet Club Gold now that have been just absolutely done in by the injury bug.
Yep. Yeah. My pet theory is that Kevin Knight turned down the WWE tryouts so he could take out the biggest star in the world, the Catalyst, the Switchblade, King Rock and Rolla. But anyway, no. In all seriousness, wishing Jay the best. Luckily, I mean, it depends on how much you value the source, but the Observer does say it's not a major injury. It's apparently like a broken wrist or hand or something. Uh, will require surgery, but he's not expected to be out for a obviously he's going to be out long enough to miss the Owen, or at least not be able to start the Owen, obviously, because it's happening like imminently. But
Hmm.
but yeah, they did say that he's not expected to be out very long, which makes sense. It's a hand injury. It's not, obviously it matters, but it's not one of the worst things you can get in wrestling.
No,
So yeah, all the
no,
best to
it's not a
Jay.
leg.
Yeah, I hope he's back soon. This means we would have probably gotten originally Will Ospreay versus Jay White at the pay-per-view, but
Oh,
but yeah, I mean,
yeah.
let's be real, Jay wasn't winning, but
No,
it still would have
no.
been awesome to get that match.
Yeah, not that I'm not hyped for the replacement that we get, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But yeah, oh, what a match that would have been. So unfortunate for Jay White, but hopefully he's back in time for All In because he was missed, in Wembley this year, especially by me. Or was he? No, he wasn't there, was he? I'm not going crazy. No, he wasn't there.
I
Okay.
legitimately don't remember.
No, I was trying to remember whether he was in the trios match right at the start, but he wasn't. That was Juice and the Guns. So, yeah, unfortunate, very unfortunate. But what wasn't unfortunate, what was very much a fortunate series of moves and events, was the match that followed that announcement, which is, I was surprised that this was kicking off the show, but it made perfect sense, really, considering the show long angle that ran after it. But we
Right.
had the mixed tag team match of John Moxley and Marina Shafir versus Swerve Strickland and Willow Nightingale. And oh, I'm getting bunged up. I apologize. I'm suffering through this a bit, but we'll carry on. This match, I had one thought going into this match, which was I just want them not to sort of, forgive the phrase, not to sort of pussy out um, on the intergender stuff. Go for
Right.
it. You have an opportunity, like to really do something really interesting with this. And I really feel like they took the bull by the horns on that one. And some of the work that was doing, particularly between John Moxley and Willow, absolutely excellent stuff. I'll let you talk about it.
Yeah, I had very similar thoughts, slightly different language, but very similar thoughts.
Yeah,
Uh,
apologies. Like that,
no,
that's
it's
my
fine.
brain.
I'm just teasing you. But I really liked how they did this match. They do miss one of the key shots, but they did it on they caught it back on a replay, which I knew they would. Um, but the intergender stuff here was great, and it for people who don't know, Tony has a history, not a long history, but a pretty solid history of saying he doesn't want to do intergender matches. It's bad for advertisers, and he doesn't like the image that it gives the audience about, obviously, men hitting women and stuff like that. Usually when wrestling promotions do it, unless you're an indie and you can get away with that stuff, then you'll usually have the women hitting the men, not the other way around, for obvious optical reasons, PR reasons. Tony said, "Fuck that," and fuck the ads, and fuck you for that matter. He just did not give a shit. Now, it wasn't all over the match, right? It still mostly was Marina versus Willow and Mox versus Swerve. But there were some moments that were really great, like Swerve hitting the Swerve stomp on Marina. It sounds like I'm just fucking pining for intergender stuff, but I am. It's because it's awesome.
It really is.
In real talk, if we want to treat people equally, men and women and every other gender for that matter, I just really think intergender wrestling, not mixed wrestling, not mixed tag teams, but intergender wrestling is a good way to go about that. I know it's easy to be kind of squeamish about these kind of things. And look, if it's not for you, I totally understand. But for me personally, I find it very exciting and very, fascinating to watch. It's just not something you get on mainstream television. Obviously, if you want to, there are plenty of lurid YouTube thumbnails of intergender wrestling that you can find. If you really want to go beyond wrestling. But anyway, so
Oh my
this
god.
was
I just thought, for fuck's sake.
uh, but it boom. Anyway, yeah, so this was great. I really enjoyed this. There were some really good moments. I already named one of them. Obviously, the one at the end between Mox and Willow was awesome too.
Oh,
And yeah, I don't know. Did any other spots stick out for you, Adam?
what? What? We'll get on to the spot for a second. I just want to piggyback what you said about, all the sort of controversy and the thing about
Sure.
intergender wrestling and whatever. What I really appreciate about this is that it felt earned. Like oftentimes you will get sort of, especially elsewhere, you will get things like it's two couples teaming together, and it will be a case of like, oh well, they're sort of once the woman gets tagged in, you gotta tag the other woman in or whatever. What I
Right.
appreciate about this is that for the last few weeks, you have built up this by having Marina Shafir attack the men, by having Willow Nightingale, stop Mox at every opportunity she can. So it didn't feel like, oh, we're just doing this for the sake of it. It felt like, no, each participant, regardless of their gender, had a reason to go after the other. So it didn't feel like, oh, we're just doing this sort of intergender wrestling because there are two women and two men in a storyline. It felt like, no, Willow has a legitimate reason to be pissed at Moxley. Swerve has a legitimate reason to go after Marina Shafir. I just really love the way that they have tied all this together so that the spots that they did felt earned. It was really cool to see and quite unbelievable, some of it, but it
Yeah,
didn't
it was
feel.
great too because the crowd has gone behind it. There have been multiple signs of people saying Mox fears Willow. And you did
Yeah.
actually have a moment in this match where Moxley saw Willow and he's like, the fuck, like, fuck that. Like, I love Moxley's supposed to be this big, tough guy. He is consistently scared of women, which I mean, like, same. But like, it's just so fucking funny and it's good. Like, Willow, you should be scared of Willow. Like, obviously, she's all smiles and stuff, but she is an excellent competitor. She's the babe with the power for a reason. And being scared of Marina was an excellent moment on Collision last week too. That was very funny. But yeah, it's a consistent trait at this point from Mox, and it's a cool one. I like the little detail that he's just doesn't want to fuck with Willow or Marina really. He's like, these women are dangerous. And
Yeah.
I might be dangerous, but I'm not that level. I think he learns his respect from Renee, but
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Willow has been positioned as like she can be legitimately sort of unhinged at times, where she'll just fucking go for it. I'm thinking of like stuff between her and Statlander, between her
right.
and Marina over the past few weeks. Like I say, everything has been built to, which I really appreciate. There is
Yes.
one spot that I wanted to mention that you did mention, by the way, which is it's sort of at the midpoint of the match, or just before the midpoint, where Mox has Willow, talking about not afraid to do intergender wrestling and make it look real. Mox has Willow ready for the paradigm shift. And Swerve looks at him and immediately grabs Marina Shafir and gets her up for the
Yes.
JML driver.
Yes.
And it's like a sort of mutually assured destruction of like, you want to take her out? I'll take her out as well.
Yeah,
Don't.
and I love this because Marina's shouting. She's shouting at Mox, "Do it! I don't care.
Yeah.
Do it!" And Mox can't do it, which shows, by the way, I'm gonna get into my Death Riders lore here, but would he do that for Wheeler Yuta? I don't think he would. Anyway, just saying.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It has been consistently shown that
Yes,
Moxley and Shafir is a unit within the Death
yes,
Riders. Like they are the
absolutely,
two closest people to each other,
correct.
which I really appreciate. But yeah, so just skipping sort of ahead to the finish, there was a lot to talk about in this match, but there's a lot to talk about over this entire show. And we have to make room for your tangent.
I don't know what
So,
you're talking about. Looks nervously at the last Dynamite episode.
oh my God. But yeah, so like you say, there's a spot right at the end where Swerve is about to hit Mox with the cow stall, and Mox pulls Marina Shafir into the path. She gets absolutely nailed, by the way. Like, holy shit. Kicks her head off.
Yeah,
It
that
looked
was
really
that.
gnarly.
That was good stuff. Yeah, I want to call out Marina Shafir. They were talking to this. I was just listening to the Modcast episode. It's a great job, Brett and Shim, on that. But
Mm,
she's done a great job being built up. Now, I do agree that they should have done matches sooner with her. It could have been just squash matches on ROH. I don't care. I mean, I know they've done one since, but more, But she looked
mm.
great here. Her judo throws looked really crisp. She looked really tough. She had a good aura about her. She looked really good in the ring. All of her strikes looked good. Anytime she was with Willow looked good. Just like she looked like such a much better, well put together wrestler than she did before. It makes me
Yeah,
wonder
absolutely.
if I really know Marina Shafir or not, Adam. So
You don't know her.
yeah, I don't know her. You're right. I don't know her.
I I
But
want
in
I
all
want
seriousness, she did look great here, and I loved her promo on Collision. She was great. So I think she's done a 180. Her stuff on the Indies has always been good, from what I hear, but AEW just hasn't really known how to present her. But yeah, that's
yeah.
always kind of a through line. I feel like in the big companies, they're kind of confused about how to shoot wrestlers. You got your Dianas, your Deebs, your obviously now you've got your Marina, but you've also got a couple other people and other companies that have been booked iffy.
Yeah,
So yeah,
Ronda,
it's
Ronda,
yeah,
Shayna, that sort of thing.
Rhonda, Shayna, yeah, exactly. The two were in my mind. Actually, all three of them are friends. Well, Shafir is anyway with them. Um,
Funnily enough, do you remember? Do you remember when Ronda Rousey appeared on Ring of Honor?
I do remember that. I did not watch it for many reasons, but yes, I do remember
I
that.
I did watch it just out of morbid curiosity because
She
I
showed out
regret.
from the clips I saw online.
Yeah, I regrettably have watched quite a bit of her sort of second WWE run. It's absolute ass. It really is. So
Yeah.
I watched. So when she was announced for Ring of Honor, I thought, oh, I'll watch this. Just to see how bad it is, basically. She showed out. It helped that she was
Yes.
facing like Athena and Billy Starks, and I think I could have a good match with those two. But
Right. Well, and,
but
and also
still,
like
props to her.
her indie stuff was good. Like as soon as she was gone from the Fed, like she was doing really good work. I think she had a Bloodsport match or she had some kind of indie booking. I don't maybe it was Revolver through Mox and Shafir. I don't remember. But I think it was against Billy, but she had a really good match against Billy. And Billy's again one of those people that I mean she could give a 4-star to Perry Saturn's mop, you know what I mean? But she's really she was good. I don't really care for her personally, but she did show out in those matches, which I really think was her way of like flipping the finger off at the Fed and being like, yeah, I can still wrestle. I just didn't really want to wrestle for y'all. Or I don't know. That's what it seemed like to me, but I don't really
Yeah,
care.
it was.
Either way, this was a great tangent. Thank you, Adam.
Yeah,
And
oh yeah, you're welcome.
I can't be
We
blamed for
still need
this
to.
one.
We still need to talk about the finish of the match. Because you had
That's right. That's right. So the finish
yeah,
is that Swerve went for the house call. Marina took that bullet. I'm kind of paraphrasing here from AEW, but and then Willow got the Babe with the power bomb, got Marina, got the victory. But then Mox comes in and he's like teasing it a little bit that he's gonna hit Willow, and I'm like, they're not gonna do this. Like, there's no way. Like, it's one thing for Swerve to accidentally hit Marina and then go tee hee hee. But it's another for Mox to come in the ring and just fucking hit Willow. And I was like, there's no way they do this. But they fucking, not only did he hit her, but he hit her with a fucking paradigm shift or death rider or whatever the fuck you want to call it.
by the way, just want to sell this. He took that really fucking well.
Yes,
Like,
yes, she did. I think there's some other people on the roster who could learn from. No, I'm kidding. But this was really good.
name them. Look upon your works and despair, Adam Copeland. That's how you take a fucking paradigm shift.
Yeah.
We got to call these people out, Dory.
Yeah. Well, all right. I'm trying to cope about it, but I guess you're right. But yeah, it was, but she did. She took that brilliantly, and it looked really good. The commentary was aghast, of course. And yeah, it looked great. Willow sold it really well, and then she was out for the rest of the night, sequestered into this very tiny training room.
Yeah.
Getting her. You know what? I'm not even going to say the sentence. I was going to make the joke, and you know what joke I was about to
No,
make, Adam.
no,
But,
don't.
but
I saw
yeah,
I saw someone say that I understand why Ray Phoenix got pissed at the medical staff if that's where they were being treated every time.
that's so funny.
But yeah, but what I really appreciate is like you can you could not do that medical through line, of her selling the neck all night if she took that Death Rider as shit as Adam Copeland. Sorry, Cope. It was bad. But if she takes it badly, you can't do that credibly. But she took it like she sold it like death, which I really appreciate.
Yeah,
The
it was
crowd,
great.
the crowd got on their feet for that. By the way, they were properly pissed at Mox because it's
Yep,
Willow. Everyone loves Willow, and
yep,
it's a man killing a woman on live television, which is
yep.
brave stuff, really. Um, appreciate pushing boundaries, AEW. Um, but yeah, we'll get back to that because it's a through line throughout the entire episode. Um, but yeah, after that, we looked at, I think it was the FTR segment next.
Yes,
Between FTR, Paul Turner, I believe it was. If it's not Aubrey, or Bryce, I have a tough time remembering which ref is which, but I think it was Paul Turner.
it was Paul Turner.
Um,
You're right.
so yeah, Tony Khan fined Dax $10,000 for putting his hands on a referee. I don't know whether that is restitution to the referee. I hope it is, because hopefully Paul Turner can get a better haircut.
Jesus.
I only bring it up because there's a point in this promo where Dax just turns to Paul Turner and ruffles his hair like he's a kid. And it,
I love that.
it
I
made
love
me
the
laugh
condescending.
so
I
much.
love the condescending, pseudo apologetic Dax character he's got going on.
He's such a sanctimonious prick. I love it.
Yeah, it's great.
But yeah, he's sort of begging off to Cash because Cash looks pissed throughout the whole thing, as he should be because Dax is being a twat. And he's like, "Oh, I'd never put my hands on you. I love you like a brother. I thought you were. I think he said I thought you were a security guard. So
Yeah,
my
he
mistake. I
said,
love
I
you."
thought you were one of those indie wrestlers and I could just take liberties with you. No, he didn't say that. But yeah, no, he did say the security guard part. I thought that was such bullshit. I was like, Dax, you obviously recognize Cash, god damn it. But this was
Yeah,
great. You can obviously tell Dax is full of shit here and it's great.
yeah. You can't. Once you've shaved someone's back, you can't make the excuse, "Oh, I didn't recognize you." You would
God.
recognize every part of that man.
Really reaching into the fold for that one. Wow.
But I'm interested as to where this goes because Cash says basically, we're fine for now. We'll get through this because they have the match on a Dynasty on Sunday.
Right.
But after that, they're clearly setting up that something is going to go down between FTR, Cope, etc., etc.
I
So
can't see anything but a swerve, bro, and it being like Cash was cool with it the whole time, and because I can't see them as singles guys. There's no way the roster is just too
yeah,
deep. Like,
oh no,
yeah,
100%. I
yeah,
I could see a world in which they have sort of like a temporary split where you have
right,
the sort of Cash is still pissed off and they have a match. And after that, it's like they're on the same page,
sure.
which I wouldn't
I
mind
could see some
because,
good promos too about Dax talking to Cash, being like, "Aren't you tired of losing? Aren't you tired of like not being taken seriously? We haven't been tag champ in years. Like, we need to step up our
mm,
game, get back to the old ways. We need to reach the pinnacle of AEW again. So I don't know. I don't know what we're doing there. I feel like we could be doing that in the long term with Max, with the Hurt
it
Syndicate
could
and
be.
stuff, but maybe not. I don't know.
It's an interesting thing because, like, there are many different ways they could go with this.
Yes.
I would love to see just that, like I say, Dax and Cash having a match and then sorting their differences out simply
Yes.
because Dax versus Cash is an
Yeah.
excellent pairing. Like they've done the match before and it was really, really good.
Yes, I remember that match. I was just about to call that out. Yeah, it was really good when it happened. And
But that
would
was in
love
the
to.
Owen, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, I think you're right. So nice little cinematic parallels. We call that, Adam.
Indeed. And speaking of the Owen, following this, we had, well, coming back from the break, they then announced, and this is where I'm going to let you go off on your tangent, Dory,
Hell yeah.
because then they announced the Owen Hart tournament final bracket. Just to touch on the men first, because I know you have big theories about the women, because we
I
talked
do.
about this before we went on it. But just to touch on the men first, Jay White is out. I love that they have done the replacement making storyline sense because Jay White was injured and put over Kevin Knight on Collision. Therefore, Jay White's replacement in the Owen is Kevin Knight. And we will get Will Ospreay, or you will get live, bitch. Will Ospreay versus Kevin Knight at Dynasty, which they announced later on the show. Oh, that match is good. It's going to be so good. People aren't ready to see what Kevin Knight is all about on pay per view against someone as good as Will Ospreay. It's going to be a star-making turn for him, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. That'll be a great match. That'll be That'll be a Hooper's Hoop match. I think I would call it because those guys both jump so fucking high. Especially Kevin Knight. That drop kick he did on Collision. Oh my god! I think I saw the Rainmaker for a second. Like I was
Oh, I
like,
know.
yeah,
It
it's
was
incredible.
Okada X,
Yeah,
which is the highest compliment you can pay to someone, by the way.
absolutely, absolutely. I was very impressed with Kevin on Collision, and I was impressed with him on Dynamite. We'll talk about that later, but yes, I love that replacement. I love, like you said, it makes storyline sense, and so I'm very happy with the replacement, and I think the match we'll get is going to be great. Is going to be great stuff.
Because I was wondering how they were going to get Osprey on the show
Yeah,
because it can't. It's an AEW pay per view. You cannot not have Will Osprey on it because it's like it's one of the main selling points of an AEW pay per view now. It's like buy the show and you will see a Will Osprey match of the year contender guaranteed. So it
right,
was like, okay, how are we going to get him on the show this time? Makes perfect sense. They probably would have done Osprey versus White on the show. Now they're doing Osprey Knight on the show. Excellent stuff. Then
right.
the on that side of the brackets as well, you also have Brody King versus Konosuke Takeshita, which excellent match in and of itself. But oh my god, you know what that means? Most probably, I can't see a world in which either Brody or Kevin Knight win. To be honest, we're
Right.
getting Osprey versus Takeshita again in the semifinals.
Yeah. I think I was doing mental backflips because I can't do physical backflips, but um I I'm just so excited about that. I mean, it's very clear where the left bracket is going. I think it's pretty clear where the right bracket is going, but there are obviously a couple lingering questions. But yes, I think you're right. Osprey versus Takeshita in the semifinals. And how do you feel, by the way, about? I know some people were upset about it. I'm not, for the record. But I know some people were upset that we didn't get more than 8. Some people wanted 16. I know there were certain people who wanted like 64. But I'm happy with it personally. I think that's enough. Now I think you could do 16 and get away with it, but 15 matches is a lot for a tournament. And I think the Owen
I,
has always been 8, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong.
I think it was 8 in qualifiers, which
Yeah,
which people are saying, oh well, that's 16. I don't think they were qualifiers for every slot. I think it was like some people had buys into the last 8 or whatever. But key point on that is previous iterations of the Owen also had Rampage, where you could put a lot of the not necessarily big ticket matches on there. So you could absolutely have 16 people in each thing. But I think then you would run the risk of having what a lot of people said was one of the negatives about the Continental Classic this year. Obviously, the tournament itself was excellent, but a lot of people did point out that certain things, especially the tag scene, fell by the wayside because you have to have so much space allocated on these shows then for the ongoing tournament. So I think if you had 16 people, yes, you would have a lot of good wrestling, but you would also have to balance that out with, well, maybe the trios would fall by the wayside again. You know, maybe the tag division would suffer. Maybe a lot of the mid card belts wouldn't be defended as they should be. You know what I mean? So it's like I I can understand why people would want 16, but I think 8 is a good balance between having a lot of good matches, you know, because you're still getting like 14 matches, men's and women's, but you also don't necessarily run into the problem of, well, we got to allocate at least an hour per show for all the tournament matches, so the rest of the card is going to suffer. You get what I'm saying?
yeah, I get what you're saying for sure. I'm happy. Like I said, I'm happy with it. Um, and I think that, like you said, we could do more, and they could be, there could be more matches and stuff like that. You could highlight some people who are off TV. But do I think it's a huge deal? No. I wouldn't have minded 16. I will say that, but I'm happy either way. I think it fits with the shorter build. But yeah,
I also think as well, if you do 16, even though we're starting like 3 months out from All In, by the time you would finish that 16-person tournament, you would have a significantly reduced time frame to do an actual feud between the winner and the title holder. So I think now, if I assume they'll be finishing about sort of Double or Nothing time, you will have like a full pay-per-view cycle to build that match.
Yeah, I think you're right, and the way that they're doing that is pretty smart in terms of the build for it. But yeah, do you want to talk about that
Absolutely.
right bracket?
Yes, absolutely. So we have Mark Briscoe versus Carl Fletcher. First of all, God, I have to mention it. I love that Kyle is doing anything. So more keep Carl Fletcher doing the best that he is doing because he is the best wrestler on the planet and also the hottest, but I will digress on that. Um, Mark Briscoe versus Carl Fletcher, they had a match in the Continental Classic this year, and it was really, really fucking good. I'm really looking forward to this match. Um, not a great deal to say about it compared to the other match because you do have the speculation with the other match, but it should be a really good one. But then on the other right hand side match, you have Mr. Cowboy Shit himself, Hangman Adam Page, versus the only wild card in the tournament. Men's or women's. The women's side has been basically completely filled out. But you do have this wild card. Now I'm interested. I have my pick for who it should be. I'm interested to see whether we agree on it though. So you tell me yours and I'll tell you mine.
Yeah, it's obviously Repo Man. No, sorry, that was a Simon Miller joke. No, I think it's clearly Josh Alexander. I don't see who else it could be at this point. There's no other like big signing that they've made. There's no other big rumored person I've heard about. I don't like Keith Lee's still not coming back anytime soon, so I don't think it's him. They've already debuted Speedball. Now you have Kevin Knight. Like I just don't see it as being anyone else than Josh Alexander, the walking weapon, which I'm very excited about. I'm a huge Josh fan. Back when I used to watch TNA, he was one of their main stars, and his matches with Ospreay were incredible. He had great matches pretty much every pay-per-view. He's one of the highlights. He's a very no-nonsense wrestler. But yeah, I think it's Josh Alexander. I presume you think the same?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think
I was waiting for you
this
to throw
is
out some fucking curveball like it's X-Pac or something like that, you know?
it is just incredible, and he's going to miss the date.
He's going to Europe. He's going to Europe for his 30 dates in a row.
um, no, I think absolutely it's Josh Alexander, and it's one of those things that like it seems obvious, but it only seems obvious because it makes perfect sense. Like you want Josh Alexander to have that sort of big debut because he's a big fucking deal. Also, a lot of people will say, "Well, why are you debuting him just to lose?" He's losing. He's losing on a big stage. Man, who it's like you should be losing to Hangman Page. No, all but the best of the best should be losing to Hangman Page. Personally, I think Hangman's winning the whole thing. By the way, just to throw that out there.
Yeah, I
I
don't
think
know
the
how.
final.
I think it's either Osprey or it's Hangman. I would be
I
happy.
think that's your
Obviously, I'd be
final.
happy. Yes, as the final. I think I don't know who wins. At first, I thought that Swerve was going to cost Hangman, and that's how we get Hangman versus Swerve at All In, maybe. But because of the end of the show, I'm no longer sure about that.
No, absolutely. I mean, we'll get into that. Hold your horses on
Yeah.
that one. Um, but I think Hangman's winning the whole thing, and I think I'll put my foot. Though we'll talk about it more at the end. I think it'll be Swerve and Hangman for the title because, well, we'll talk about it. But we need to talk about the women because I need to let you go on your tangent.
Yes.
First of all, the left-hand side of the bracket, which arguably is the less interesting one, not to discount any of the participants or the stories going in.
Well,
But you do have the big Mercedes Athena bullseye on the other side. But we
right.
will talk about it. You have Jamie Hayter versus Billy Starks on the one hand, which I mean, if their match on Collision was it Collision or was it Dynamite?
Yeah, so it's Collision,
Can't
but
remember.
she did the super haterade.
Yes, that's right. But on Collision, if their match on Collision is anything to go by, this match should absolutely hump because these two, they had really, really good chemistry, which I don't think gets talked about a lot when you talk about that match because you do sort of talk about the super hater age. You talk about Athena and that sort of angle there. These two really know how to wrestle each other, so this should be excellent. And on the other half of the left side, or the other quarter, I don't know. You have Thunder Rosa versus Chris Statlander. Um, Arguably my least hyped match of the entire tournament, either way. Sorry, I'm not a massive fan of Thunder Rosa in 2025. I'm just not. Um, I don't want to doom too much about it because there's so much to talk about positively. I don't want to focus on the
Right.
negatives,
But I
but
mean, I think she's very clearly here to lose the Stat. I don't see a world in which
mm,
she beats Stat. So I don't even if you see Thunder Rosa as I feel like Stat can get a good match out of her too. Like I feel like if anyone can get a good match out of Thunder Rosa in Big 2025, it's Chris Statlander. She's always been good, honestly. Even in
mm,
2020, she was good and showed a lot of promise. And now in 2025, it's like, yeah. Um, but yeah, I think we get Statlander and Jamie Hayter, unless Big Bully Stark shows up to work and we get a surprise. But I don't think so. And
no, I
yeah,
think you'll get Jamie versus Chris in the semi-final, and I think whoever wins that is probably winning the whole thing. That's my little fantasy booking, but we will get onto yours now because then on the right hand side, you have Julia Hart versus Mercedes Moné. I love that Mercedes is in the Owen because she should be. She's the best women's wrestler on the planet, aside possibly from the other person in the other match on the right hand side. Um, Obviously talking about Harley Cameron there.
yes,
Um,
absolutely.
Julia Hart is she's still one for the future, despite all the accomplishments that she has achieved in AEW. She keeps getting better, I think, personally. She had a bit of a rocky start when she came back from injury, but I think the series with Jamie Hayter really helped restore her confidence. I'm looking forward to this match. You're going to see it live again. Lucky so and so. Um, but yeah, this should be really good. I think Mercedes comfortably is winning though. Um,
Yes.
but yeah, the other match is Harley Cameron, love Harley Cameron, versus your forever ROH Women's World Champion, the Fallen Goddess, the American Joshi. There's so many epithets you can't keep count of them all. How do you think this match is gonna? Well, we know how this match is gonna go. Athena's gonna win, but I want to let you go on your tangent about your booking choices.
Sure. Okay. All right. Everybody stick with me here. This is going to be a bumpy
Oh
ride.
boy.
All right. So, obviously, Mercedes is beating Julia. And obviously, Athena is winning. Now, I don't know if it's going to be a squash match or not. I feel like I need a fucking whiteboard for this. But I don't have a whiteboard and we're not on video, so that's not going to work. But I think Athena is comfortably beating Harley. I don't know if it's going to be a squash. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a glorified squash. Regardless, Athena moves on, Mercedes moves on. Here's where it gets really interesting, and here's where my fantasy booking starts. And also, I'm going to talk really fast because I'm really excited. So I think when Billy loses to Jamie, as she is wont to do, Billy is going to try to help Athena defeat Mercedes whenever that match happens. It's obviously not a double or nothing because it just can't be, right? Now, I've also been brought to my attention it cannot be a tie. This is a single elimination. Somebody's got to take a loss here. It could be a disqualification, it could be a ring out, it could be whatever. It could be a dirty, it could be an unclean finish, whatever, a non-clean finish. Um what I think happens here, and it could go a lot of different ways, but I think Billy is going to try to cost Mercedes the match. She is going to mess up somehow and actually cause Athena to lose. Now, my timeline could be wrong here. I don't know. There's so many fucking pay-per-views coming up that this timeline could make no sense. I don't know. But this is just what I'm thinking. Big Bully Starks comes in. She tries to cost Mercedes. She accidentally costs Athena. Mercedes ends up going to the finals against Jamie Hayter. Athena then costs Mercedes at Double or Nothing. We get like a a standoff from them leading up to All In, and that's where the second match actually happens, and Athena finally beats Mercedes. Now I don't know where the Renegades fit in. I presume we get some kind of tag team match between Athena and Billy. Can they coexist? And the Renegades, but I'm not sure. Charlotte and Robin are supposed to be back in action pretty soon. I know one of them's injured. I apologize. I can't remember which one it is. I believe it's Charlotte.
I think it's Charlotte. Yeah.
Yes. But yes, Mercedes is supposedly forming some kind of big faction with them finally. So I think that's where we get that. You could also do it so that Billy breaks away from Athena again. I'm not bitter about Final Battle 2024. I just want to make it clear that I'm absolutely not bitter about it at all, and I definitely am not bitter. But I think you could break off Billy again, and you could have it at Super Card of Honor. Athena's like, I can't stand you anymore. One of us has got to leave ROH. So I think that's when Billy finally beats Athena after Athena's just lost to Mercedes. Because technically Athena still hasn't lost in AEW as far as I can remember in terms of this run. But obviously she lost previously to particular people who deal with storms and stuff. And not Tony. And
ironically, you sounded quite jaded when you said that.
There it is. But yes, it takes me all the way up to Valhalla or whatever that move is called. The road to Valhalla. Anyway, so yeah, that's what I think happens. So to recap, I think Athena versus Mercedes. Billy loses to Jamie, tries to cost Mercedes, but costs Athena. Mercedes beats Athena, not clean, but she beats her. And then Athena costs Mercedes at Double or Nothing, which means Jamie, I know you British lot, English lot are going to be very happy about this. But Jamie probably wins the whole thing, gets the title back from Tony that she never lost. That's another different fantasy booking. And then Mercedes and Athena face off at All In, and Athena beats Mercedes. I think Athena and Billy will also have their blow-off match. I say their blow-off match. Athena's 2-1 on Billy, or 3-1. I forget. Actually, she's not even 3-1. I think she's like 2-0 or 3-0. I forget. But
yeah,
that's where they do it. Super Card of Honor, and loser leaves ROH. Athena finally moves on from ROH and Billy becomes the ROH champion. I would. That's what I would do. But yeah, what do you think? I know that was a lot.
No. I believe it or not, I am basically in complete agreement with you. With one caveat, I think.
Okay, here it comes.
It has nothing to do with the Mercedes Athena thing. I could see a world.
the thing I spent the most time on. Okay.
Yeah. No, I am in complete agreement with you because I think that you have to. Not you have to, but it would be a damn shame if after building this for so long, you did not at least have either the first match, although that's obviously not going to happen now, but the blow-off match should be in Texas, in the big stadium, because not only is it because Athena is from Texas or whatever, but also because it's one of the biggest matches you can possibly run in the women's division, and it should be on the biggest stage that you have. And it's been built for so long. It's been built really well. I would question the decision to not have them run the first match at Texas in the first place, to be honest. I'm excited for what's about to come, but I do still have the niggly feeling in the back of my mind of like, well, I kind of wish that you had sort of kept this a little bit longer. But that's neither here nor there. I'm not going to cry over spilt milk. Right. My one caveat is that I think that maybe Chris Statlander is winning the whole thing. Just as a sort of, not necessarily a reward, but as a recognition of her being the unsung MVP of the women's division over the past year. She has had some of the best matches in the history of the women's division in AEW
Yes.
over the past year or so, I'm thinking like the Willow match, the two Mercedes matches. I'm sure there's more that I'm forgetting,
One of which
but
Mercedes wrestled while she was feeling sick. I will remind everyone.
which is which is an insane feat. But but for me, that just highlights even more how great Chris Statlander is. You
Yes.
could talk about how well Mercedes gutted through that, but you got to also talk about how good Chris has to be able to get
Yes.
that greater match out of a really sick, other competitor. But the matches with Megan Bain have been really good. I'm just trying to remember now. She's been on a tear over the past year, and I think you could absolutely see a recognition of that by saying, here, have the women's world title match on the biggest stage that we have. Whether she wins that or not, I'm less sure than if it had been Jamie Hayter. I think if Jamie Hayter wins it, she's beaten Tony Storm. I think if Chris Statlander wins it, it could go either way. I'd love to see a win personally because I'm a massive fan of Chris Statlander. But that's my only caveat. The rest of it, in complete agreement with you. I think that the story that they've been telling, like I say, it's not necessarily how I'd have done it, but I'm still excited for it.
Right.
And yeah, I think either way, this has to end at Texas, and I think it will, and I think it will be excellent.
Yes. All right. Well, that's
But
that. That was my big fantasy booking. Everybody put Pepe Sylvia memes in the comments.
yeah, I was thinking that as you were talking, but I didn't want to say
Yeah.
anything. Um,
No, I mean I did it to myself. I got excited about this, but yeah.
that's fine. We still got so much of the fucking show
I
to
know,
go
I
on.
know.
Well, we will spend a bit less time on some other things, I should imagine, because there are some things that are like sort of pro forma, really good, but what you expect. Like this
Yeah.
match, you had Tony Storm versus Penelope Ford. We've talked before about how good Penelope Ford has been on her sort of return to AEW. So we won't go too much in detail on that. Watch the previous episode of our Dynamite review if you want more information on that. But needless to say, Penelope Ford has been really, really good on her return. And she had a good match against Tony Storm, this today. It only went about 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Um, but there was some really good stuff. Um, Tony Storm continues to be as over as anyone that I've seen in the year of our Lord 2025. She's excellent. There was a bit right at the end where you could clearly see that they were calling the finish on the fly, um, which I don't necessarily mind. I just wanted to note it here because I'm not sure whether what they had originally planned broke down or whether it was a case of no, we're just going to call this on the fly. In which case, for someone who has been out for so long as Penelope Ford, they did a good job of doing that.
Yeah, I agree. I think this was a pretty good match. I really liked Tony Storm's fisherman suplex that she did
Mm,
pretty early on. Just the angle she got and the height, the positioning of her feet looked really good. The the handspring back elbow that Penelope always used looked really good. Yeah, it was a pretty good match. It didn't get enough time to be much more than that. It's not a match I'd be going back to or writing home about, but I enjoyed it. And it was it was a fun, entertaining match.
yeah, I thought Penelope Ford's blockbuster looked really good. That was towards I think the end of the match. That was one of the things that I sort of singled out to be like, oh yeah, she knows how to work.
Yeah.
Fair play to her. But yeah, it, as expected, Tony Storm gets the win with the Storm Zero. Uh, yeah, good little match that. Uh, gives Tony that sort of much needed win and momentum to get into that match. With Megan on Sunday, who appropriately came out to sort of jaw jacket Tony in the ring way, just not to bring down the tone, but Megan respectfully. Oh my goodness,
I look,
she
Megan came out with some non-formal wrestling attire. I just want to reassure our audience that not only Adam, but I was looking very respectfully, and possibly, I don't want to speak too out of turn here, Adam, but I could have been looking the most respectfully out of anybody.
Oh,
So
well,
yeah.
I would question that because I don't think you could get more respectfully looking than I was at the time and on copious rewatches. But regardless, regardless, she is that is a woman right there. Like
Yeah.
I just to talk briefly on it, we'll have our predictions. I should imagine going live before. Well, I would hope going live before the pay-per-view. But who have you got? Because this is one that I think could go either way.
I do think Tony retains. I don't see Megan winning. Now am I 100% sure on that? Absolutely not. We could be doing a push of which we haven't seen in the women's division arguably ever. Um, it is possible that the Megasis gets the win here, but
Hmm.
I think that Tony wins. She has been beaten down, beaten down, beaten down. I think they want us to question it. I think they want us to wonder. I I don't know exactly what happens. Maybe Penelope costs Megasis, or maybe Tony just gets the roll up win, or maybe she just does an underdog victory and gets a clean win. I don't know, but I do think Tony wins. I'm not going to be mad if Megan Bayne wins. Obviously, I think she could have a great dominant run, but I'm not convinced she's winning. I'm about I want to say I'm about 75-25 in favor of Tony that she's winning, but there's definitely a good amount of doubt in that 75%.
Yeah, I'm about the same. I think Tony Storm is probably on the balance of it winning. I would love for them to pull the trigger on Megan Bayne. I really would.
Yes.
Um, but all the sort of speculation about All In has focused on who's going to face Tony. So I think it's like just based on the vibes of it all, I think Tony's probably winning. But I
Yeah.
I really hope that even though I think Tony's winning, I think Megan Bayne will look like $1 million coming out of it, and I really hope that they capitalize on that and keep her on TV, keep her pushing, because I think she's excellent, and I think we've waited this long. We've waited so fucking long to get her on AEW television, and she's showed out so far. I think you just need to keep with that momentum. So yeah, exciting stuff. Um, After that, um, we had um, a little segment about Renee looking on Willow Nightingale in the broom closet with the medical staff. Um, and you get a Swerve promo who said, how dare you, John, given how Willow has like neck issues and stuff, you would do that to her, you disgusting piece of shit, blah 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 blah. And he says, I don't want to wait until Dynasty to get my hands on you. I'm going to get my hands on you tonight, which sets up what we had later on, which we'll talk about later on. But a good little promo. Can't get over how small that fucking room is. Um,
Yeah. I like this a lot, and this was setting up some stuff. Yeah, we'll talk about it. It was setting up some stuff that I'm mildly excited to talk about.
Indeed, just a little bit of stuff. But yeah, we gotta speak to this. We've been talking for nearly an hour, and we're not even out of like hour one. Um, anyway, anyway, so yeah, after that, you had a sort of rundown of All In's going to be earlier on, which I appreciate as a Brit personally. Thank you, even though I have done my sleep schedule around late AEW pay-per-views as of late. It's still nice that in the summer I get to enjoy Y'all In at a reasonable time.
Yeah.
Um, just running down the All In weekend. I appreciate them doing a proper All In Texas weekend, with Ring of Honor, and I think they announced like Starcast and stuff like that. I imagine you'll probably have indies running Dallas around that time. Good for the wrestling ecosystem, I think.
Yeah, I
Um,
totally agree. I think it'll be great to have a nice kind of lunchtime with the 0 hour. Get some subs. Just sit in my nice air-conditioned apartment and not be in Texas. I know that the stadium has a retractable roof and it has AC. Let me make fun of Texas, god damn it. But anyway, yeah, I like a lot of the counter programming that they're doing. I think it's really smart stuff. I think it's really good stuff.
Yeah.
And it honestly, and you can be all like, oh, Dory being all kumbaya, but like, I think this is good for all wrestling fans. Yes, even you. That was a general you, not to Adam. I don't talk to Adam.
I was going to say,
But
what'd you say fuck me for?
um, but yes, I do think it's good for all wrestling fans that we get shows at different times, and that you'll be able to watch multiple shows on one day instead of have to have two screens up or watch one show and then watch the other show, the next. Of course, you could just solve that by just, I don't know, just watching the better company. But it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. But in seriousness, I do like this a lot. I think these are smart moves.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes perfect sense. Glad that they're doing it. But I'm speeding through because, oh my god, why did I let you do the tangent?
I warned you. I warned you.
I know. I have only myself to blame on this one, but regardless, we push on Dory because then we have the Hurt Syndicate come out, and interestingly, Shelter Benjamin not with them. I later turned out I think it's because of the tornadoes that he couldn't make it.
I'm pretty sure it was the weather.
Yeah, which unfortunate, but it's fine. The segment didn't really need him, but just interesting that he wasn't there. It would have been way more notable given what they've been doing if Lashley hadn't been able to make it, because Lashley grabs the mic, which I don't think we've seen him do in AEW yet. I think it's been basically solely MVP on the stick for the Hurt Syndicate. But Lashley goes to speak, and you hear the dulcet tones of MJF's theme song, which I can sing off by heart, and I have in Wembley. He does the cut my music, puts over MVP. They're clearly playing up. Oh, these guys are buddy, much to the chagrin of Bobbles. And he says, "You disrespected me last week, but it's fine. I'll let it slide because we're pals." But then he zones in on Bobby Lashley and says, I know all about you. You're great, etc., etc. But you're in AEW now, and AEW is my patch. Essentially saying like, you can't play up everything that you've done before going up against me because you're on my turf, and that doesn't mean shit anymore. He does the whole I am the great, I'm Maxwell Jacob Friedman, I'm a generational talent, etc. And I thought standard MJF stuff, but it works with Bobby Lashley because they haven't interacted before. So Max feels the need to sort of remind him, this is who you're dealing with here. Don't think I don't know about you, and don't think I don't know that you need to be reminded who I am. But I'll let you talk about it. I've been talking about it a bit now.
Yeah, known MJF defender logging in here. I'm very excited about everything with this. I'm very intrigued. I don't know what's happening. Are we getting an MJF versus Bobby Lashley match? Because that's what I feel like we're getting. But I also feel like Lashley wants MJF to prove himself. Well, I don't think he really wants MJF to prove himself. He just wants him to get the fuck out. But I think supposedly he wants MJF to prove himself. I think we get an MJF versus Shelton Benjamin match out of that, which, oh my God, if we ever got that match, I don't know. I love MJF and I love Shelton. That would be incredible. As kind of an entrance exam, I think that would be really cool. I still don't know if that would be enough. I still don't know if Lashley would accept them, but maybe it would convince Shelton. And at that point, Lashley would be outvoted, and down the line, we get that MJF versus Lashley match. I don't know. But I'm excited about this. I mean, I'm very curious. Do we get an MJF World Championship run this year, or maybe even next, with the Hurt Syndicate backing him up? I don't know. That's such a weird mental picture, but I guess it could be a thing. But I think much more likely is MJF's going to build his own faction of, associates or business associates, not friends, and build up his own stable to challenge the Hurt Syndicate. That seems more likely to me. Now, whether that's, a dynasty or a pinnacle or just a brand new faction, I don't know. That is the heart of this. I just don't know where it's going, and I'm very excited about that because there's so many cool people. Like, I'm gonna be real, I'm not the biggest Bobby Lashley fan. I don't think he's bad. I don't think he's terrible or whatever. I grew up watching him in arguably his worst spots, when the WWE ECW was the thing. And
Oh God.
I was not there for TNA when Bobby was there, so I
No,
missed
neither was
all.
I.
Yeah, so I missed all the best parts, and I caught only the worst parts. Respectfully for
Yeah.
Bobby, and a
Right.
lot of that obviously wasn't on him, to be sure. But so I just don't have a good track record with Bobby in the ring, but I don't think he's been bad. I think he's been a good muscle character, and Shelton's the better all rounder. But and MVP's the talker. I mean, I just think it works, and they look great. Obviously, they look like $1 million. I barely look like a cent. So who am I to say anything? But yeah, I think that's where we're going, or a couple of directions it could go. But I don't know. I'm very excited. And MJF
It's
said to Bobby, "You want me to prove myself?" Okay, maybe it's just a case of him. Somebody suggested this in chat, so I can't I can't take credit for it. But I think that he could cost. I don't think the Hurt Syndicate needs this, to be honest with you, but he could cost the learning tree of the match. But I feel like Bobby and Shelton and MVP would be more pissed than anything because they don't really need his help. So I don't know.
no.
What do you think?
I sort of think this is one of those things, and there's a lot of this in AEW right now, where I don't know where it's going, but it's not a bad thing because every option that you have presented to me is something I could get behind. Whether it's a case of MJF versus the Hurt Syndicate, formally, that could be really interesting. Whether MJF joins the Hurt Syndicate and wins over Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin in some way, that could be interesting. There's a myriad different directions you could go with it, but it's one of those cases where I'm just intrigued as to what you do, not a case of, oh God, this could go this way or that way, and oh, it needs to go this way. No, there's a case for everything that has been presented to us, and where they go with it, I don't know. I don't know necessarily even what I want out of it. It's one of those things where, not to sound, like I'm glazing everything, I'm just happy to be along for the ride with this one because it's
Right.
really intriguing to me.
Well, as a great philosopher once said, enjoy the damn ride.
Yeah, well, you can enjoy the ride back to the hotel room Sausage Championship on Sunday. Uh,
Ooh.
I know it's spicy, but then after MJF leaves, you get the Learning Tree arriving for their sort of squash match, um, and they they wanted Bobby and MVP to stay and watch, but Lashley takes the chair and just kicks it out the way as if to say, "You can fuck off with that shit, bud." But
I thought that was funny.
uh, um, but then the Learning Tree get a squash match. I've been told by friend and occasional presenter of the channel, Brent, that they faced a team called Zero Gravity, who has been active quite a lot in the Midwest indie scene. So thank you, Brent, our correspondent for basically every wrestling show in North America, apparently, because he goes to
Pretty
all of
much.
them. Lucky bastard. Anyway, yeah, this was a squash match. In the interest of time, there's really not much to say about this. They killed two people. Very good.
Yep.
And Big Bill gets on the mic afterwards. He says they've killed they killed Top Flight, they killed whoever these bastards are, and on Sunday they'll take the World Tag Team Championships. No, they won't. Um, sorry, just to say, no, they won't. But regardless, then you have going backstage. We almost talked about your tangent in this segment rather than the Owen, but we chose the Owen, so don't go back to it because we're sort of low on time as it is.
I have no idea what
But
you're talking about.
Renee, yeah, okay. Renee has Mercedes in the back. You know, the most dynamic pair in all of wrestling. Love these two. Um, just to just to preempt this by saying they did announce that on Collision there will be a tag team match between the four people on the right hand side of the bracket. You've got Athena and Julia Hart versus Mercedes Moné and Harley Cameron. And Mercedes being interviewed, and all of a sudden we have Mercedes Pape coming out of the side of the screen, and it's Harley Cameron, who is just the fucking best, isn't she? Just
She is just incredible. I'm so glad she brought back the puppet. I know people are disappointed that they don't sell the puppet, but I think it would cost a lot of money to make. You'd have to make really small versions. It's a lot of. I'm not an expert or anything, but just from what I've heard, it seems like it would cost a lot. But anyway, this was great. I'm very excited. I think that the tag team was called the Money Wrath Train of Choo
yep.
or something like that. And it was or at least the Money Wrath Train, and it was good stuff. I love Harley so much, and I'm very excited for that tag match on Collision.
Yes, absolutely. It should be excellent. Um, you know, love these two. Love everything they do. Yeah, good stuff. But after that, we had Will Ospreay and Kevin Knight, which, oh, what a tag team. Wouldn't mind them going on a run. Versus Blake Christian, who I saw a tweet, I think it was from Ebu, who basically just said Blake Christian has obviously impressed The Office somehow because he's
Yes,
been on so many shows as of late. He's wrestled fucking Kenny Omega, and now he's wrestling Will Ospreay on consecutive Dynamites. Which I am not a Blake Christian hater. I know you are an avid defender of the Vanilla Man. Um,
absolutely.
but just pure appreciation for another person getting the spotlight. Good for him. Good for him. Blake Christian versus Blake Christian and Lee Johnson tagged here. At first, I thought this was a bit of a Franken team when they did it. I think it was on Collision. Um, but they have good chemistry together. So if it works, it works.
Yeah, it was good
Oh
stuff, and this was a great. This was maybe it was probably my second match of the night with the intergender kind of tornado tag being first. But yeah, this was a really great match, really fun. The moves that Blake pulled off, that Ospreay pulled off, and that Kevin Knight pulled off, just
yeah,
good stuff. I like Shotty Lee, of course, but yeah,
there's
this was just a really really fun match. I had a great
there's
time
a
with it.
there's a dive. Sorry to interrupt. I'm just thinking out loud. There's a
Yeah,
dive that Blake Christian does, and I don't know how he does it. I've watched it back. I watched it back this afternoon, and I just don't get it. Like he sort of twists in midair, but it looks like he does almost like a reverse headbutt at some point. Like I don't know how he manages to, to do the aerodynamics necessary to
I have no
pull that
idea.
off.
It's crazy.
It looks amazing. Like oh, I don't understand it, but I don't need to because I'm just in awe every time he pulls it off. Which
Yep.
that's what I should be as a wrestling fan. I shouldn't be overanalyzing it. I should be like, that's fucking awesome. And it is fucking awesome. And also everything that Will Ospreay and Kevin Knight do is fucking awesome. And Big Shotty D Johnson is very good as well. Less to say about him, but that's fine. Poppy, I'm a bit scatterbrained today. I do apologize. Um, there was a spot that it was sort of right at the end. I really want to focus on. You had I can't remember exactly how they get to the point, but you have Lee Johnson manages. He somehow ends up on Blake Christian's shoulders, and that's about sort of 10 foot tall at the end of it. And somehow Kevin Knight hits a drop kick all the way up there and Lee Johnson ends up flipping backwards and spiking Blake Christian with a poison rana.
It was so cool. I'm watching it right now back because they got the clip on YouTube, but it's so good.
It's incredible. I couldn't understand it. It sort of broke my brain very briefly when I watched it the first time because I was like, "How the fuck did that happen?" But oh, amazing! Kevin Knight is a phenomenal talent. He hit a Speaking of phenomenal, he hit a springboard sort of lariat that I thought he was going to go for a phenomenal forearm to start with, like like Osprey does, but he got the win with that. So I guess that's his finisher.
I don't know. It seemed kind of like it, for sure. I don't know a lot about Kevin Knight, so I can't say with accuracy. But yeah, I mean, it looked impressive as hell.
Yeah, it really did. Like you know, incredibly, incredibly impressive athlete. Made the right decision, I would say, coming to AEW. Let's not forget, they wanted him to try out. This man was in the Tokyo Dome and they wanted him to do a tryout.
Well, they got to make sure that he can do arm drags, you know what I mean, and takeovers and
Yeah,
stuff like that. I mean, it's really
yeah.
important,
Do you
Adam.
know do you know where the hard cam is, bud?
Yeah, that's
Um
true. You know, he should
oh
have. They should have talked to Psycho Mike. I think they would have been able to figure out where the hard cam is then.
yeah, it baffles me. It baffles me that there are some people that will defend that. There's just levels to this shit, man. There
I
really is.
it's
It's
just the exact opposite way of treating Kevin Knight. One company wants to do a fucking tryout, the other ones, and I know it's partially because Jay White's out injured, right? This wasn't the original plan, but still, they're trusting him with it, right? They're giving him a pay per
yeah,
view slot. He just signed with the damn company. It's not, he's not going to win, of course, but he's going to show out. Osprey's going to make him look like $1 million or $2 million.
yeah. It's like we say that it made storyline sense, and it does. But if they didn't think he was ready for it, regardless of the storyline, they wouldn't have put him in a pay-per-view singles match with Will Ospreay in
Exactly.
his third match in the company. Like that just goes to show how much they value this guy that they've just signed. That is a level of trust that certainly is not afforded to you when they make you try out in the performance center. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I just really appreciate that they've essentially gone regardless of the circumstances regarding Jay White, they've essentially gone, no, we're gonna do a concerted effort here to get this guy as over as we can in the short time that he's been here so far. And I really appreciate it. I cannot say good things enough about it.
Yep.
Um then
Also, really like
we
the
had
450 stomp that
okay.
Blake Christian did. I want to shout that out. It looked really good.
It looked really good. I've never seen anyone do that before. It looked excellent. Yeah, I I I've seen some people question why Blake Christian is getting the TV time that he is, but I think he's good enough. Like he's not being put in like main event situations. I know he's going up against really good talent. Like, he's got Osprey and Omega and such, but at the end of the day, he's proven that he can hang, and he's got the charisma, the heel energy, the dickhead energy to get a reaction out of the crowd. If it works, it works, regardless of your thoughts on his previous work or whatever. I know some people hate him because, oh well, he's what he is what Fournette fans think Will Ospreay is something that I saw people say. Um, but I think he's come on leaps and bounds since then, and I think this new heel character is working really well for him.
Yeah.
But we
All
won't
all
we won't
heat, all heat,
okay,
Blake Christian.
yeah, and also the Vanilla Choke Zero is an excellent name for a move. I will just put that
Absolutely.
over very quickly. But yes, after that we had the Ops backstage, all of them because Katsuyori Shibata wisely chose to hand someone the camera this time instead of standing behind it. Um, they said that they're going to be at Dynasty on Sunday, surveying the landscape, as they put it. Seeing what they can do. I fully expect them to be trios champions before the month is out, or at least I
Yeah.
hope so.
I see them as trios probably by the summer. I think they're gonna get there for sure.
I think at the latest, Double or Nothing. Personally,
Yeah.
I don't think. I think you could do a story of like the Death Riders are starting to lose everything. hopefully on Sunday, but I digress. But they will lose everything that they have, including those trios belts, pretty soon, at least before Texas. But could be very interesting. Following that, we had Brody King versus Lance Archer, which I thought was there were some spots in this match, particularly I'm thinking of like the chops. Where I just thought I'd die if I had to take one of those. I think I'd just die, especially
Yeah.
when it comes to Brody King.
I think you would like be Thanos snapped. I think you would just turn into dust.
Yeah, honestly, it would like my chest would be concave by the end of it. I simply do not know how they managed to keep their chest protruding from the rest of their body. It did not make sense to me. And they were leathering each other with chops, clotheslines. Brody King hit a cannonball that looked somehow even worse than it normally does.
Yeah.
Really hard hitting match.
Yep. A lot of fight forever chance, a lot of meet forever chance, a lot of meat chance. I really liked the crossbodies that they did to each other. Brody had a really gnarly German suplex on Archer, which is just really impressive. Yeah, it looked really good. It was a really good kind of heat up moment for Brody. I feel bad for Archer because obviously he's in this position because Cage is out injured, but man cannot catch a break. But yeah, this was great for Brody, and ultimately I'm more invested in Brody anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I think Lance Archer is one of those people who it's really interesting because I feel like Lance Archer. I'm repeating myself here. It's one of those people who he can lose and lose and lose and lose, and yet he still has that baseline level of credibility that you can put him in a match against basically anyone, and you will think, oh, he'll probably lose, but he'll look really badass coming out of it, and such as he'll put on a really good match, and there is an ever so slight bit of jeopardy there. Because I thought Brody King was going to win. It made sense for Brody King to win. But he hit a choke slam on Brody King. And there was a moment where I thought, oh, that's it, surely. Because he's put people away with that before. But, obviously Brody kicked out. And I did sort of go, whoa, impressive. You got me
Yeah.
there, which I didn't expect you to do. Just really, really good stuff. I went over the finish as well, where it was just they had been leathering each other for over 10 minutes. And Brody King just hits him with a massive lariat and literally falls on top of him to cover him. Like I'm absolutely spent. I've got every last bit of my energy into knocking your head off. And now I'm just going to lie on top of you because I can't do anything else. And that's enough to win. Excellent stuff.
Yeah.
So, after that, I think we basically went straight after the, advertising break. We went straight into the main event then, which got a lot of time. Adam Copeland versus Claudio Castagnoli. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this one. I don't because
So
I want to
yeah.
get to the real main event, which was the angle following it. I love both of these men. I love Adam Copeland to death. I love Claudio Castagnoli. I thought this match was a bit slow.
I think that there were definitely some moments that felt a little slow to me. It took some time to get going. I was at kind of like I don't know, not to get too heavy on the ratings, but 3.75 for a while. But I think some late moments like with Cope going through the ropes and not being a dope and giving us some hope, sorry. Is was really good. The spear through the ropes looked really good. Um Claudio hitting the neutralizer looked really good. I love Cope. I know people are upset about it in some circles, but it fucking pops me that Cope's like, nope, I'm gonna not. And it's like, at least he takes losses, right? Like I know people are upset because he's not taking pinfalls or whatever, and he's kicking out of everything. But like, at least here, like he cheated to beat Claudio, right? Like he didn't win clean. I don't know. Maybe I'm like rationalizing or something how this is different than a certain spooky merchant that Cope has fought before. But it doesn't bother me because I don't mind. Adam Copeland is a legend, and I don't mind him not taking pinfalls. It means when he does take a pinfall, it will be big, and it's not like he's not wrestling all the time and he's not taking losses, because he's taken losses before, even though they're mostly like, choke out submissions. But yeah, I liked this. I didn't really like it, but I did like it. I thought it was pretty good. I thought that the finish was good. It kept Claudio looking strong. And it kept Cope looking strong too. I
It did
felt
have a
like, yeah, go ahead. Go
oh,
ahead.
sorry.
I got
No,
pretty much, I was
it did
vamping.
have a it did have a little bit of intrigue at the end for me, because it sort of reminded me when Cope as Edge would be the ultimate opportunist. He goes for the low blow, and he's a face, he's a baby face, but he hits the low blow, and he has the crazy eyes like only he can do. Where
Yes.
it's like the sort of deranged, like I say, the ultimate opportunist, as he has been through most of his career. But
Right.
I'm interested to see, because he hasn't gone heel. He's been in AEW over 18 months now. Hasn't gone heel yet. And I think there's definitely a way you could do it, because I think there are certain subsections of the fan base who are sort of a little bit fed up of him. Not him as a person, but how he's been booked, and like you say, not taking pinfalls, etc. There's an appetite, I think, for him to turn heel, that you could do it. And I think if you're gonna do it, I've maintained throughout his entire career, he is a much better heel than he is a babyface.
Yes.
So it would be very interesting, because they didn't want to turn him heel. They turned him heel very briefly in WWE in his second run, but that obviously didn't pan out because of reasons. But I don't think there was much of an appetite to turn him heel in WWE during his second run, because it was just, oh, we finally got Edge back, we got the legend back, let's just enjoy him while we can. But I think in
Right.
AEW, that that doesn't cut it for the fan base. They need more to sink their teeth into. So I think there is an
Right.
appetite for him to turn heel.
I
So
agree. I agree. I also agree with you that I think Cope is better as a heel. I want him to turn heel. I think it would be interesting if Cope turns heel and Cash doesn't, but I don't know what you do with that, right? I don't want to leave Cash out there. I go back and forth on the tag team whether I think Cash is better or Dax is better. They're both really good at what they do, but Cash tends to get a little more flippy with it, right? That infamously cost them against the
mm,
Bucks way back. But Dax is the better grounded. I'm gonna pretend I'm Bret Hart kind of guy, and he's really good at that. Um, so I don't know. I don't know that you do that, but I do think that would be interesting. Um, I really wanted to link back up with Christian. I know they did a ton of stuff together, but damn it, it pretty much all of it was magic. People
yeah,
still talk about
yeah.
that fuck you spot. That ladder match was one of the best things about that pay per view that they were on. And it
Was
was
it a ladder match?
it was a ladder match, yeah, or at least I remember it being a ladder match for the
I thought
TNT belt. I thought it was a ladder
I
match.
thought it was I thought it was just a no DQ match.
Oh, maybe it was no DQ. Maybe you're right, and they just happen to have ladders. But either way,
Yeah, I think.
um, I would like them to tag back up before All In. I'd like. I know other people have booked this, so I'm not unique or special or anything. But I would love the old Fox versus the Young Bucks. I think that would be great. The
I
old
think you
Fox
have to
versus
you
the
have
middle
to
aged
run that match at some point.
the old Fox versus the middle aged Bucks. But yes, I agree. I think I would like him doing something else at this point. Or I like the stuff with FTR, but he's got to change something up about his in ring style, because it's not hitting as much as it used to. I thought his street fight was really good, but when he's just having a basic match, I feel like he has lost a small step, not a big step, but a small step since the injury, and I think that's understandable, especially at his age. But he's got to do something character wise to make up for it, I think.
Hmm.
But yeah, this was pretty
Yeah,
good for me.
absolutely.
I don't know that it should have main evented. I think you could have had I guess for storyline reasons you couldn't, but I kind of wish you had done the intergender match, or maybe you could have done the Osprey match as the main event. I don't know. It gets tricky, but I don't know that this should have been the main event.
I think what you could have done, you could have this as the main event, just shave like 5-6 minutes off of it,
Yeah,
give that to someone like Tony and Penelope or
correct.
or the Osprey match or something. I don't know. Like I say, I didn't dislike this match, but I thought it just went a bit too long. But that's
Yeah,
fine.
I think
I
that's fair.
Yeah, but we I got to talk about this, afterwards, the angle afterwards, because I could talk about this all day. This is the highlight of the show for me personally. Like, you could talk about the intergender match and Moxley hitting Willow with the Death Rider and etc. This is the highlight. This is the thing that when I think about this show, I will think about months down the line as being like, oh, this is when they did the beginnings of like a reconciliation, because true to his words, Swerve Strickland is looking for John Moxley. To close out the show, he wants to get his hands on him before the show is out. And um, Renee is trying to sort of, get an update on Willow, and he just says, respectfully, I'm looking for your husband right now. F off, basically. And as he's walking down, you just hear like a commotion behind him, and out pops Hangman Page coming out of the backstage curtain area, and he just storms down to him, effing and blinded, but not actually, because obviously we're on TV still. But um, he says that I made a promise to you that I would never let you hold the world championship again, and they go back and forth. Um, Swerve says, you're wasting your time. Why are you here? Let it go. And Hangman says, you broke into my home. How dare you tell me to let it go? Swerve Strickland says, you burned my house down. Hangman says, you deserved it. And Swerve says, I know. Oh my god, the goosebumps just thinking about it. Oh, this is the best story in AEW history, and I'm so glad that we are ramping it up again, because it is just magic every time that they do something together. I'll let you talk about it, because I could fire off for days
I
on end.
so
But
we see Swerve, right? So we've seen. Oh my god, I can't even talk. I'm so excited. So we haven't seen these two interact in maybe a week or two. Maybe it was last week even. Yeah, I think it was last week because we talked about it. But Hangman's like talking about how that he's gonna cost him, blah blah blah. We come into this week. Swerve's walking, with the camera facing him, like something's gonna happen behind him. So I see a figure come out from the curtain behind him, and I'm like, oh, well, that's Moxley and the Death Riders. They're gonna attack him from behind. But then all of a sudden, I hear very familiar shouting, and it's like, hey, where the fuck you think, blah blah blah. And I'm like, oh my god, what's happening? Well, I literally said it out loud. I was watching with Kim. I was like, what's happening? What's going on? Because anytime these two are on the screen, it's just fucking magic for me. Immediately my neurons go
absolutely.
off and I'm like happy. But yeah, so I was so intently watching, and when Swerve said I know, like I felt that in my fucking bones, dude. Like
Mm,
somebody pointed this out on Blue Sky, but Hangman has had so much doubt about how he handled things with Swerve and how he handled things with Christopher Daniels and Jeff Jarrett and whatever else. And he needed somebody to finally reassure him that he wasn't crazy, that what Swerve did was horrible, and that him doing something horrible right back to Swerve, while maybe not okay, was understandable, and maybe Swerve had it coming. I honestly would argue, technically, philosophically speaking, whatever, that what Swerve did was worse than what Hangman did, because all Hangman did was burn down some wood. It didn't hurt anybody. But anyway, Swerve literally threatened a baby. So, you know, um,
yeah. I just
but
want to point out,
anyway,
that's how basically, like, that was like in the first month of this storyline, and we're like
right.
18 months in.
That's right. But yeah, when he said I know, I just Hangman just looked at him like he had five heads. He's like, "What?" And Swerve's like, "I said I know." And I'm like, "Oh my god, what is going on here?" Like, I did not expect them to have even the minute amount of reconciliation. Not that I would call this necessarily reconciliation, but understanding, I guess, between these two characters is so important and crucial to the storyline at some point, right? Because eventually, I mean, obviously they can fall out with each other again, but at some point, like, you want to have that tag team or you want to have them back on screen. And it's tough to have them on screen when they're always want to fucking kill each other. Not that I'm against that, but it's good to go in a different direction. And so Hangman like looked at him like he couldn't believe what he just heard, walked the fuck away. And I'm thinking in my head, like, oh my God, like I had all this fantasy booking that Hangman was going to cost Swerve on Dynasty. And then Swerve was going to cost Hangman when Hangman fights Ospreay. And then they're going to fight each other at All In. Obviously, very similar booking to Athena versus Mercedes. But I mean, you know, just because it's obvious booking doesn't mean it's bad booking. But yeah, I love this segment so much. I want to point out too, in the background was the excellent indie tag team Violence is Forever. They are
Yeah.
yes, they have wrestled mainly on DPW, but I believe they've also been elsewhere. Just an excellent tag team. I loved somebody's comment online that's like, this was really a teachable moment for everyone. The two guys in the back really learned that violence doesn't need to be forever, so that was nice. But yeah, this was great. I mean, I couldn't say enough good things about this if I wanted to.
Absolutely. I wanna quickly talk about what happened afterwards, which was also fucking gnarly. But then I want to tie it all together. So after that, Hangman storms off because he's fucking losing his mind, right?
Right,
Why would you say that to me?
right,
How can you possibly acknowledge what you did was wrong? This doesn't fit with my narrative,
right.
But then Swerve continues looking, but then he gets ambushed by the Death Riders, right? We speculated, oh, is it Moxley going to be coming up behind him? No, Moxley just comes out of nowhere and fucking blindsides him.
Right.
Because obviously, my head canon is, after what he just said, Swerve is sort of half looking for him, but also processing what has just happened and what he's just said. He's not focusing, and boom, Moxley takes him out. And you have 5-on-1. They drag him to ringside. Oh no, sorry. I should say, first of all, they didn't just drag him to ringside. Backstage, they put him through a pane of fucking glass.
Oh,
Yeah,
this was
how could
gnarly.
I forget that? It was because I saw it. Yeah, I wasn't properly looking. I saw that they had a lot of detritus, sort of debris or whatever miscellanea tucked away, and I thought, oh, they're going to send him into that, whatever it is. Like I don't know whether it's a pile of cardboard or whatever. But then it was just as they were throwing him, I saw that looks like a window pane, and then he goes through it and it shatters. And I'm, oh my God, like
Yeah.
Jesus fucking Christ! And yeah, he gets dragged, sort of glass and everything, out to the ring through the crowd, and the rest of the Death Riders, they sort of hold him in a stress position as Moxley sort of talking down at him, and then Yuta grabs what looks, I think it was a paint can full of broken glass, and Claudio grabs him, hits his Ricola bomb right onto the glass. Oh, really, really gnarly stuff to end this episode, which, they've had a lot of sort of shocking or gnarly stuff, especially in the opener, with like Willow. We didn't even talk about this at the time, but Willow took a really nasty table bump right at the start of the match. Just want to talk about that now. We've been a bit scatterbrained this episode, but Willow, it looked like she really hit her head hard. I don't know how she didn't. You remember the table bump I'm on about?
Yes, I remember.
Oh, but there was a lot of gnarly stuff on this episode. Swerve taking 2 glass bumps in 2 minutes. Oh, wow. And that's not even it. Because the Death Riders, they're talking shit about him as they leave. And then Swerve just rises like, well, like the Undertaker or like the Terminator, whatever you want to say, with this broken glass stuck in his back. And just, I want to talk about the implications of this and the implications of the Hangman stuff. I'll let you talk about this segment first because there's some things to talk about, but
Yeah.
I
Um,
have my thing.
yeah. I mean, this was a great moment, but it was also a puzzling moment because wrestling maths would dictate that
Mm.
if Mox is like, you know, basically putting his boot down on Swerve and leaving him like that, then Swerve's gonna win. But it hasn't seemed like Swerve's gonna win. It looks like Ospreay's gonna win. Somebody else is too busy climbing a mountain. So I don't know. But on the other hand, you had Swerve kind of getting up from it, like you said, like the Terminator, and fucking just sitting up, smiling with glass on his back. And they play his music at the end with Mox looking like, spooked. And I mean, I feel like that's just another Tuesday for Mox, or another Wednesday in this case, but whatever. But still, I mean, yeah, definitely a cool moment. So it kind of puts both guys over, and it doesn't, wrestling math wise, it doesn't give you a clear idea of who's winning, which I think is great. But ultimately, unless Swerve gets help, from the Hangman or from Hangman, there's nobody else, right? I mean, he's burned everybody
Yeah.
else. Jay White is shoot injured. Unfortunately, we now know that Orange Cassidy is also injured. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah,
But
I did. It was about
yes,
20
yes,
minutes ago as we're recording this.
yeah. I was trying to not bring it up, but I mean, Orange Cassidy's injured. Jay White's injured. Willow is out of commission, either kayfabe or for real. I'm pretty sure for kayfabe. She's taken
I
bumps like that
fucking hope
before.
so.
Yeah, she's taken bumps like that before, so I'm not worried that much. But on the other hand, the Death Riders, the trio, are tied up. They're busy that night. They're dealing with rated FTR, right? So often in pay-per-views, if you're wrestling in one part of the show, not always, of course, but often you're not going to come out to back up your main guy in the main event later on because you're too, you're too banged up from the previous match to do that. But I mean, I don't see rated FTR winning, so maybe they'll be fine. What I'm getting at is there are a lot of fucking angles and stuff here. People say that like Tony and Megan Bain are the thing that they're most uncertain about. I don't know. I thought I was like 80-20 for Mox winning, but now it's more like 60-40 for Mox winning. Like I
Well,
still feel like Mox is winning, but I'm a little less convinced than I was before.
this is my thing, right? Because like my sort of theory, ever since they started bringing in Swerve and Hangman, together again, was that Swerve, he's going to have the match won, but then Hangman Page is going to cost him, and that's what's going to lead you to Swerve and Hangman at All In. But with one fell swoop, not only did, as you say, the wrestling match dictate that while Swerve was beaten down or whatever, you would assume that means he's probably, he's going to win. That is what the logic would dictate. But also with one fell swoop, they've neutralized what I thought was going to be the big angle of Hangman costing Swerve. I thought that was probably going to be what was going to happen. Because Hangman has been saying, I will never let you hold the championship again. But now, they've sown those seeds of doubt in Hangman. I certainly don't think he's going to cost Swerve the match on Sunday now. Because, Swerve has taken a bit of responsibility, and I think that's enough for Hangman to give him a bit of a reprieve.
Right.
So I think I'll stick my neck out here. Perhaps I'll be convinced as we get closer to the show, one way or the other. I think Swerve might be winning this. I think
I
when we
want
do it.
I want the moment that they did at fuck, what was it? Was it All Out? I think it was All Out. No, Full Gear. When Hangman fought Kenny, and I'm gonna mess up
Yeah,
which Jackson brother it was, but one of the
I think
Jackson
it was Matt.
brothers. It was Matt. I
Matt.
was gonna say Matt, but I was like, maybe I'm wrong. But Matt Jackson like looks at Hanger. He's about to like hold his leg so he can't do the buckshot, but then he just looks at him and he gives him the nod. And watching 2020 AEW back, it really, it really gets to me like how much that moment really meant, because the Bucks had been tormenting Hangman in BTA for a long time, not treating him as not as equal. And then once AEW started, like they acted all innocent, like we don't know what's going on, like why does Hangman not like us? And like finally they gave him the respect he needs. I feel like you could have a similar moment with Hangman coming out. Swerve's like, oh great, here it comes. He's gonna fucking cost me the match, but he costs Mox the match, or or he gives him the nod like Matt Jackson did. Is kind of what I was getting to.
Hmm.
There's a lot of
That'd
cool
be
ways
epic.
you could go with this.
There's they've done a masterful job of getting me really excited about this show,
Yeah,
and
it's
especially the main event. You know, bizarrely, I think my most hyped match might be a Death Riders world title main event, which 3 months ago that would be fucking unheard of.
never doubt when Tony Khan is in the weed.
Yeah, honestly, get that man some cannabis,
That's
or
right.
whatever. But yeah, excellent stuff. I'm really excited about the show that you are going to. Fucking
Hey, I
hell.
just want to remind our audience. Adam said it, not me. Just letting
Yeah,
everybody
yeah,
know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
I am
didn't
really
need to.
excited. I am really excited about the show. I am hoping to be able to go to Supercard, but we'll see. I do not have the funds for that right now. I wanted to get the pre-sale tickets, which were like $15. It was amazing, but
Oh.
but yeah, I haven't bought the tickets yet. I'm too cheap and I'm too low on funds, and I gotta save it for Philly. So, but I might go to that too, but we'll see. I'm really excited for this card. I mean, it looks phenomenal. I think the match I'm most excited for is that Kenny Omega triple threat. But I mean, there's so many good matches.
Yeah,
I'm
I
really
could see
looking
that.
forward. I'm really looking forward to the Garcia Cole rematch, the Osprey Knight match, the Mercedes Julia match. I mean, everything looks really good. Uh, that's not even including the tag team match, and I guess there's a Jericho match. But again, Bandito got Jericho's best match, easily his best match of 2025 or 2024 out of him. So I think that I think he can pull miracles again, especially in a hair versus mask match, which I guess means Jericho is going bald. But anyway, I'll leave that for y'all in the prediction show.
Oh man, that'll be interesting to see. But yeah, I like to say, very excited. Very good go home show just to wrap this all up. Um, yeah, excellent stuff. AEW continues to be very good television. So yeah, I think that'll do it for us. I believe. I think that's everything that we need to talk about.
I
I know
agree.
that you have to get going because we've been talking for like an hour and 45 minutes. Um, but excellent stuff all around. I want to thank everybody if you stuck it out to the end. I know we were ever so slightly we were a bit less organized than even by our standards, I think, this time.
I think
Um,
the standard's just going to go down and down more every week.
yeah, honestly. So if you've been watching from the beginning, I can only apologize for our steep and rapid decline in our mental faculties. But if you enjoyed despite us, please let us know in the comments or on Discord or however you know us. I know Dory's a lot more active on like Blue Sky and stuff than I am, so go badger her. Like, subscribe. It does genuinely help us out. We're fledgling with this podcast, but we really do want to make a good go of it. So anything you can do is helpful. Share it with your friends, etc. I always feel scummy shilling like this, but it's what it is. I want to thank Dory for joining me. Giving her expert tangents on everything. Um, so as
God gave me
always,
ADHD, and I'm just here to deliver, everybody.
yeah, honestly, and we thank you for it
And
because
by God, I mean
honest,
Kenny Omega, just for the record.
well, the by God Kenny Omega,
By
exactly.
God, Kenny Omega. That's right.
Um, where was I? You've really not helped me here.
Sorry.
I think I was thanking you, so that's beginning to sound that's beginning to sound more and more sarcastic by the second. Um, but yes, thank you for joining me. That's where we'll go.
Yeah.
And thank everyone again for joining us. This has been the AEW Dynamite Modcast review. We will have a prediction show going up live in the next couple of days before the show, before the Dynasty show. And we'll probably have a review of that going live as well, following the show, obviously. I'm very smart. So yes, thank you again. Hope you enjoyed. Like, subscribe. I've done all of that already. I am repeating myself officially. We love that. I'm going to stop talking before I dig myself into an even bigger hole.